wanted to give you an idea of the difference between the two different systems. So this is the VRS Pro controller, and then this is the Sim-Plicicity controller, and you can see that there's quite a size difference in the two. If I put this in front of that one, it gives an even better idea of the difference in size. So you can see here that the VRS is far smaller than the SW20. Now the VRS does not have a fan in it. However, the SW20, if we turn it this way, you can see it actually does carry its own fan and blows air through its enclosure. So there is that. Okay, and then here's the difference in cabling. And what I've done is I've created the cables are laid out with the VRS one on the left and the Sim-Plicicity on the right. So this is the power cable for the VRS, and you can see it's that circular, fairly heavy cable. This is the Sim-Plicicity cable that came with it. This is the cable that came with the USB cable that connects the controller board for the VRS Pro to the computer. And this is the one that came with Sim-Plicicity, so you can see a marked difference in size. This is the motor cable that goes to the direct drive unit, and you can see clearly there those detents I was talking about in the other video. And this is the one for Sim-Plicicity, same detents, same 4 points, very similar looking cables, just different color. This is the motor controller. I think this is the motor controller, and again you can see the detents in this one as well. But a marker, this one is the VRS one, and this one is the Sim-Plicicity one. Marked difference in the size of the cable between the two. Okay, so that's just a comparison of the cables that come with the two units. The VRS cables are slightly longer than the Sim-Plicicity ones, as you can see as I go down here. That's one, and then the other, those are the VRS ones, and they carry on. So here's something else I thought I would mention as well. This is the hub adapter that the Sim-Plicicity comes with. You do not have to buy this separately. It is actually included in the kit at the price point. And just to give you a look at what it looks like in profile, there you go. Okay, so this actually attaches from the front with these 5 bolts or 5 hex-headed screws, or nuts, or whatever you call hex-headed screws. You just do the star pattern and tighten them down, and it pulls basically this gap. You can see the screws just in there. It's not quite in focus, but you can see the screws in there as I turn it. And it basically pulls the two pieces together this way, like that, and that's how it binds on as it pulls together. There's actually a shim inside there that that tightens them down. Now for the VRS system, it comes with a completely different shaped piece, which is this piece here, and as you can see, it's got a split in it, and it's got 2 bolts that go through it sideways here and here, and it pulls it together this way. So this one closes that way and grabs the shaft underneath. I don't know if there's any particular real difference apart from aesthetics, but of course with the VRS one you do have to pay for this additionally. It's almost 50 bucks, whereas with the Sim-Plicicity this is included. Now you can see with both the motors out, they are pretty much identical. They are both, here's the Sim-Plicicity one, and here is the VRS one. So they are pretty much identical. So there you go. So here's a comparison view with both of them with their hub adapters attached. And to be honest with you, it's going to be largely aesthetics as to which one you prefer, because functionally they're both going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, let's talk attaching them to the actual frame. So the Sim-Plicicity comes with this attachment, And I guess you can really do it whichever way around you want. You can either have it with the hex head out and it comes with a silver washer and this at the back, or you can of course do it the other way around with the hex head at the back and then this at the front. Now both of these, oops, I'm not showing you what I'm doing. So the hex head at the back and then your silver nut here at the front. I guess it's aesthetics as to which way around you want to do it. Personally, I had, because the actual mounting frame is black, I had the black hex head to the front. The VRS one, both pieces are black. You've got these slightly longer bolts than the ones that Sim-Plicicity comes with. So this is the VRS one, this is the Sim-Plicicity one, and it has a black washer, and then the Sim-Plicicity only has one washer per set, whereas the VRS one has a washer for both sides. So really not much difference. Personally, I like the fact that it's black and it's going to be black on black, but I guess that's just an aesthetics. It's really not very functional. Okay, so this is the assembled VRS mounting bracket, and you can see again I've put the silver bolts to the inside because again I like the aesthetic of having the black on black. But again, they had silver washers with this, which I think kind of just a little spoils the effect. But obviously this is the front, and this is the piece for the Sim-Plicicity system. Okay, so you can see here the same on this side. Obviously this is your adjustment bolt. You can move this forward or back depending on how much tilt you want at the front. My wheel deck is actually tilted slightly anyway, and so you know that's my setting. But you can set it however you want simply by loosening this bolt, moving this backwards or forwards, and getting it set how you want it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly assemble the VRS system of these. It'll look exactly the same as this. The difference is that the VRS one, instead of being a shiny black, is a powder coated sort of more matte black, which I do like, but they're both nice. Okay, so here are the two side by side. This one is the Sim-Plicicity one, this one is the VRS one. Now you can completely see that the VRS one is actually a little bit shorter than the Sim-Plicicity one. It's a little lower down. But apart from that, they're pretty identical. They both have, let me turn it over this way. I'll turn this one over this way. They both have the same mounting points at the base with these slotted ones, so you can adjust it to fit. They're both pretty much exactly the same size. I'm not going to have to drill any additional holes. But one of the things you can see, well, two things I should say about it. One, this comes with the Sim-Plicicity system. You do not have to buy this extra. This one does not, and it's about 50 bucks extra for this one. Also, the Sim-Plicicity one you can see here is a little bit thicker than the VRS one. Okay, and when I say a little bit, I mean we're talking, you know, a millimeter thicker in all the parts than the VRS one. To be honest with you, I don't think that's going to make any difference. You're obviously not going to notice it when you're driving, but I just thought I'd point that out. The one thing I didn't get with the Sim-Plicicity one, and you can see here, is that it has a washer on the inside. I actually had to add that. That did not come with a washer for both sides. The VRS system did come with a washer for both sides. So I'll turn that over and you can sort of see from there. And there you go. I'll give a bit of a, there you go. This is a nut and a hex nut on that side. This one is one of these fancy silver nuts and a hex nut on this side. And you'll see that it has a silver washer, which is what it came with. Personally, I would like to see black washers come with these. I'd like to see a black washer for both sides. Again, this is aesthetics. You could have this to the outside if you wish. It kind of has a bit more of a finished look, but I simply liked the black on black view. So that was just my preference. And then if I do it sideways, you can see the Sim-Plicicity just has some basic cutouts like that, whereas the VRS one actually has VRS cut out of it. So there you go. Okay. I'm just about to bolt the VRS holder bracket down onto my wheel deck. you can see that there's some holes drilled in it. These were drilled for the Sim-Plicicity VRS system. They will fit now the same on the the Sim-Plicicity SW20. These will fit also for the VRS system. However, one of the things that I think would have been a nice touch would have been to provide the bolts to bolt it down. Those were not provided by either company in the kit. Okay, so here you can see I have assembled and attached the mounting bracket for the VRS system. You can see it says VRS very nicely on the side there, and so there you go. That's what it kind of looks like when it's mounted up. And the next thing we're going to do is mount the midge motor inside of there, and then connect everything up. Cool. Okay, here we go. It is now installed. You can now see the VRS Pro system is in. I haven't tightened it all completely down, and I will tell you this, it is difficult to get these all in. The top ones are very simple. The bottom ones, however, are much more challenging. Now, it has been suggested that the better way to do this now, so I put the bracket on, then I installed the motor. Some people have said it might be easier to actually install the motor on the bracket and then install it onto the rig. Either way, it works. The difficult ones with the rig are the bolts that are down here, these ones at the front at the bottom, where they bolt through in the back. You can't even really see inside there, but they're a bit more challenging to get to. You can just about see it up in there. But we got it done, along with the help of my son Max, who was very helpful in getting that done. So we've got the small midge attached, we've got the hub attached, we've got the bracket attached, we've got the whole thing attached to the bracket. You can see the VRS box down there in the corner. Pardon all the cable mess. That will get sorted out at a later date. And what we're going to do next is we are going to attach the quick release, and then we will attach these cables to the hub, get the hub attached to the computer, and get the software installed and see where we go. So this has now got the Q1R installed onto the VRS Pro. It's very simple to install, and in fact the hub that the VRS Pro comes with has threaded holes, which makes it very, very simple to install this. Okay, so now you can see the whole thing's assembled. The converted Fanatec wheel is connected down here to a powered USB 3 dot whatever it is hub, and the VRS wheel is connected now down to the base. I have to connect the base to the computer, and it's going to connect to this hub over here, and once we've done that we will boot it up and see what happens. We are going to switch on the VRS system. There we go, it's on. You heard the computer beep there, it's recognized it. Okay, so we're now at the part where we're going to go and install the software, get that running. So when you get the wheel, you'll also get an email when it's been delivered with a link to this web page, virtualracingschool.com/dfp-help, and from here you'll be able to download the software, look at the marketing document, an installation guide, and then your warnings and disclaimers that came in your package. So go to download your software. I've already downloaded it. Download it, save it somewhere where you know where it is. It is in a compressed zip file. You can go in there and decompress it and then run it. Now, sometimes when you run it, you may get an error. I did for this version. It says that Windows cannot access the specified device path or file, blah, 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 blah. This is an issue that's actually caused by my antivirus software. So what I did to solve this problem is I went to my Avast, I went to Shields Control, turned them off for 10 minutes, ran the software, and then just went back in here and re-enabled it. I've spoken to the guys down there. They know this has happened, and they are going to work on providing a virus signed piece of software, so that issue won't happen. Anyway, when you run the software, you get this wheel tool, which is here, and basically it will work for you out of the box. This is the default setting. So what you'll do is you'll go to your wheel, you'll change it, turn it so it is straight up and down, and then click the center button, and what that will do is it will just center the wheel at that point. So you can see my offset is 8.92 degrees. Then you can go through and change any settings in here that you may want to. However, this will work. I've tried it straight out of the box. You haven't got to do anything at all. So let's go quickly through some of these buttons. Reload settings will simply reload whatever settings you've got it set to. You can see that the Skippy, I've got it set to 80%. Smoothing is at 1, dampening is at 10%, and everything else is left as a default. I got Skippy, and I've done Skippy 2 just for fun, just to move some stuff around. You simply hit the add profile. I'll do that, and now I'll add Skippy 3. There we go, Skippy 3. And then I can change that to whatever I want. So let's say I wanted 10% spring. I want smoothing at 1, I want damping at 20, and I want the force feedback at 90. There we go. And then I can save that by clicking Save Settings, and you can see now if I move around between these, the bars on the right will move to where they're supposed to be. You can remove a profile by deleting it. There you go. Factory defaults resets everything to the factory, and then bootloader allows you to update the firmware should they release a new update to the firmware. I'm not 100% sure on what all of these things do. I got a link from the guys to have a look at, which I'm going to load now and pull over here. And this gives a bit more of a description as to what everything does. So if we go down here, I'm going to ignore that bit for the moment. So let's go to here where the settings and filters are. So they tell you dampening is the force that acts against the current rotation of the wheel. So the faster you turn the wheel, the more dampening will affect you, from what I understand. And you'll feel more. It'll smooth out any oscillations you might have. Friction and inertia aren't implemented at this point in time, so let's pull that up right here, so we can see what we're talking about. So there's no friction or inertia. It doesn't matter what you set those to, it won't do anything. Spring is, as I said, the recentering. It pulls the wheel back to the middle. The more centering force, the further you turn the wheel, the more it wants to go back. So we don't want to have too much of that, but they say leave it at 0 for iRacing. I haven't played with many of these yet, so I don't really know what the changes will be. Non-linearity is to deal with low powered force feedback wheels. So that's a setting that's actually in iRacing, not in the VRS tool. Obviously saving it is saving it. I loaded the phone we talked about. And then there's an encoder, and it just tells you which encoder you're running and what the resolution of that encoder is. And again, this is for, you don't need to play with this at all. And then debug is again, nothing you need to worry about. What they don't talk about on here is this drop down where you can have device effect only, game effect only, or both. I've not played with this myself yet, so I don't really know what this is going to do. But what the heck? Let's put that in there and see what happens. So I'll do both and see what happens. Who knows? So that's what you're going to get from this page. There is some other information on here that you might want to read, and it'll just give you some data. So the next thing I'm going to do is have a quick look inside of iRacing as to what the settings I've got for the Skippy in iRacing. And we're going to pull that up on here now. As you can see, I'm just loading it. And again, this is all very much a matter of how it feels to you. The settings that I use, you may hate. The settings you use, I may hate. Or we both might like them. Who knows? But this is very, very subjective, and is completely not objective whatsoever. So again, this is going to be one of those things where you're going to need to just sort of play around with it and see how you feel about these settings and where you want them. And I think very much this is one of those sort of trial and error issues. You sort of go in, change some stuff, see how it feels, change some more stuff, see how it feels, and so on. So in the options, we're going to be looking at this area here. So for the wheel range, it should be 900 and 900. You don't need to change that. Brake force factor, I haven't touched that. Obviously, you want to enable force feedback. You should be using linear mode, and you want to reduce force when parked. That really is, again, subjective. It's how does it feel for you. If you're driving a car that has a large amount of force on the wheels, you might want to have that reduced when you're parked, when you're not moving very rapidly. But you can try that or not. So what I do in here is I set the wheel force to 20 Newton meters. Now, let's go back to max force. So you might see it as strength and a number 4.8. If you click once on strength, it'll change it to max force, and then it will give it to you in Newton meters, and that's really what you want to have. In wheel force, this number for wheel force should be set to the maximum strength of the actual direct drive system that you're running. Now, if you're not running a direct drive system, I don't know why you'd be watching this, but let's say you're still running a G29, this should be set to the maximum Newton meters that the G29 can put out, right? So you just change this to whatever that number is. So for the direct force, I keep calling it direct drive, I do apologize. For the DirectForce Pro, it can put out 20 Newton meters. You set that at 20 Newton meters. This is now the max force in sim that wheel is going to generate. And I'm not 100% how this works, because the lower the number, so if I set that at 20 and that at 20, man, that wheel is almost impossible to turn. Okay, so that's like a 1-to-1 relationship, right? And believe me, I can't barely get around a corner when it's set there. So again, you want to run it and just try it out and see how it feels to you on running this wheel. I've been running the Skippy at around 70, feels pretty comfortable to me. I might try something a little lower, maybe 60, and see how that feels. I'm still kind of playing with this to see where I want to be. Dampening and minimum force should be both set to 0. That's going to be managed by the wheel tool from VRS. Okay, so that's my in-sim setup. Okay, yeah, that's that. So with that, I guess I'm going to be done with this piece, and the next part I'll do is actually talking about driving it, which, to be honest with you, it's so subjective. It's a DirectForce wheel. It feels like a DirectForce wheel. I've tooled around in it a little bit. It felt really nice. I like it. I really don't know what else I can say. In comparison to the SW20, I will say a couple of things. That I found the actual feel of the wheel to be quite similar. As you can see, and I know I talked about this earlier, if we look again in factory default, oh wait, no, hold on, I don't do that. If we look in encoder, sorry, you can see that the encoder that's being used in this particular wheel is a BIS-C, and it's a 4.194304 million resolution. With the Sim-Plicicity V3 that I was driving, it's a 3 million something resolution. At that level, you can't feel anything. I mean, you don't, can I feel the difference between 3 million and 4 million? No. Can anybody? I don't know. Maybe, but I'm not a professional race car driver, and it doesn't feel any different, to be honest with you. In terms of the setup between the two, when I was setting up the Sim-Plicicity wheel, the hardware and all that was fairly easy. there was no different. I don't think there's any differential between setting up the VRS and setting up the Sim-Plicicity. Is there any quality difference? Not really. I think that both organizations have produced a very good quality product, a very high quality product. I was very happy with both of them. I did have, as you said, a couple of little niggles that I would have liked to see with the Sim-Plicicity wheel, but it didn't detract from its utility, its use in any way. What about the getting the software up and running? So I've had a little bit of problem with both companies with their software. As you saw with the VRS, I got that error message, which I quickly realized was being caused by the antivirus software, which was I was able to work my way through. With Sim-Plicicity, I had, and it was this one that I got. With the Sim-Plicicity, I had a lot of problems getting the software to work. Again, it's very simple software. There's only really 2 tabs where you're changing anything. You center the wheel in almost exactly the same way. You have a few additional things that you can play with, but you know, nothing earth-shattering. There's no way you could say, oh well, my gosh, you know, the VRS software is so much better than the Sim-Plicicity software, or the Sim-Plicicity software is so much better than the VRS. Pretty much the same kind of stuff on both of these. Yeah, there's nothing to say. However, when installing the Sim-Plicicity, I kept getting USB disconnects. It would connect, it would disconnect, it would connect, it would disconnect, it would just keep doing that. When I reached out, I was told just use a different USB port. I've used all of the USB ports on the computer. I used my USB hubs. I detached everything and just had that attached. Was still getting the problem. I read somewhere that the cable could be an issue, so I changed out the cable, and I was still getting the issue, but not as often. I had to reboot the computer a couple of times. I uninstalled and reinstalled the firmware, went through their step-by-step process a number of times, and eventually it just stopped doing it, and it worked perfectly. And once it started to work, it worked continuously. I'm not sure what caused it to work. I don't know why that changed. Oh, hold on. Their image is 8 million. Let's notice that. But anyway, there you go. I can say all these millions, you don't notice the difference. Anyway, why did the Sim-Plicicity one suddenly start to work and not disconnect? No idea. But once it started working, it worked perfectly. I was able to connect it to my powered USB hub that's attached to my rig, which is what I really wanted to do. And I had absolutely no problems with it running it at all for the, I don't know, I guess about a month that I've been running it. So in terms of the feel between the two, no difference. In terms of the ease of setup of the software between the two, I would have to say that the VRS one won, but they both had their own little issues. So there you go. Which one would I recommend personally? I don't know. I mean, you know, I think really it's just a matter of maybe slight aesthetics. Do you prefer the matte black that the VRS comes up, or the glossy black that the Sim-Plicicity provides you with? Do you like the slightly smaller control unit without a fan that you get from VRS, or do you prefer the larger control unit all in a nice silver aluminum box with a built-in fan that you get from Sim-Plicicity? I really don't think there's much in it between the two. It might just come down to what can you actually get your hands on, what's available when you're ready to order one of these things. Would I recommend a direct drive wheel? My step was up from a G29, Logitech G29, which I enjoyed using and I thought worked really well. But I will say that the difference between having a non-direct drive wheel and a direct drive wheel really is night and day. It brings an entirely different feel to the racing. It really does make you feel more connected both to the car and through the tires to the road. I am finding it easier to catch spins or to catch slides or to manage slides. I really am, and so I would highly recommend, should this be something that you enjoy doing and you think you're going to do for a while, moving to a direct drive system. More expensive, yes. How long will it last? I think it will last quite a long time. All the parts and pieces seem to be made to an industrial standard from both organizations, and I think that either one of these would do you very well. Final thoughts, as Barry would say. Barry, if you ever do listen to this, mate, you are my idol. Yeah, nice wheel on top of this, and you're sorted. What would I like to see changes in either of these? I think I'd mentioned with the Sim-Plicicity, I'd like to see some black washers instead of the silver ones. Again, I mean, that's such a minor niggle, right? I would like to see, one thing I would like to see is a much better cable that will connect the Sim-Plicicity control system box to the PC. The one they send is cheap, it is not particularly good. I think a much better cable there would work wonders for them. Excuse me, and that's about it really. From the VRS guys, I think they've done a fantastic job. I know that they're still working and developing the software, and I really look forward to seeing where they go with this. It's I like it. Yeah, so both of them are very, very good. You just choose your poison and go for it that way. So with that, hope you enjoyed this video, and it may be a bit long-winded, but I did try to cover all the bases that I said I would cover, and I do hope that you enjoy. If you are interested, there is a VRS DirectForce Pro use group in Facebook, which I encourage you to join. If you just want to get more information, come along to that. If you are thinking of buying, or you've got a wheel, come along and share your tips, tricks, what you're doing with your setups, your gripes, your moans, or anything else. And with that, guys, have a fantastic time. Enjoy your racing, and hopefully I'll see you in Sim one of these days.